Hi.
Hi, Aditi.
How is everyone? Oh, you painted it? I was just about to ask. Good, good. Very nice. Did you try any other motives? No. Wait, you're on mute.
I had a dreadfully contracted muscle on my shoulder. On my other hand, my right hand. I think I
Oh,
was holding that paper, remember, down below?
huh?
It was so bad. So I haven't done anything for the last 2 days.
Huh?
And I don't know why. I have no idea why. But something got really frozen here. It's the
Oh,
other hand to what I'm doing stuff.
huh. That's so strange.
Yeah, I think I was holding that paper from underneath. Remember, I keep feeling that the paper is going to fold up when I'm doing
So
pull,
you,
get pull. So I think that is what I was doing for quite a few days. So then finally that muscle kind of said, okay. And now they're going to start breaking the bathroom floor. So I'm going to keep my, yes, a pipe leaked from underneath,
oh,
all in the bedroom. So it has to be broken today. And the guy has just come, he was supposed to come yesterday. But I shall keep me muted and try.
okay. Okay, let me just remind everyone. Where is everybody?
Nita, I think, has got a wedding. So she said last time, remember, that today's class she'll be at a wedding, so she won't be able to join. But the others, I don't know.
Okay. I guess we'll start anyway. When others come, maybe I can recap. So today I wanted to do sugar skulls. Good fun, very nice, crafty, colorful exercise, which we'd done with the kids class. So I think Jainita will know. I think was Kyra in class at that time when we?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Recently, right?
This was in October, just around Halloween.
No, then she has missed it. But you
Was
did
it?
something similar
I
recently.
could have done. I could have done something. So this is I had done it in the kids class as something alternate to Halloween. So neither of these holidays are ours, but they're super fun. So Halloween is pretty popular with kids these days. But I thought, okay, if we know Halloween, let's try to find out something else. And I found about Day of the Dead, which is celebrated in South America, or I think Mesoamerica, Mexico and a little south of Mexico. So it's got a fascinating history, actually. This is again one of those things where they've taken something, or the natives had tradition of something like Day of the Dead, and then the Spanish invaders had their own Christian traditions, and they decided to merge. Very much, I think, like how the English did in, or even the Portuguese might be, anyway, Christian missionaries who came to India did in places in India as well. So I'm going to send you some information about this. There's lots of information available about the folklore and about the tradition. And this has, the roots of this celebration go back some 3,000 years, when the Aztecs used to celebrate this as a month-long festival. So like, I think all cultures have something about either remembering the dead or respecting or celebrating. So like we have a 15-day period in, I think, before or after Shravan or in Shravan, when you do all this Pitru Pandroda and you have this celebration for, or not celebration, you have all these Shraddhas and all. And then all the party season begins. So I think this is another way of, I guess, a primitive culture where the dead are remembered and respected. So I think in order to appease the locals and get them to buy into the Catholic concept, and I think there was so much of turmoil that they'd had to give up this tradition about Day of the Dead, that they said, okay, fine, we'll celebrate it as part of the Catholic tradition on All Saints Day. So they just put it together. We call it All Saints Day, but you can call it Day of the Dead and you do whatever you want. So it's very difficult to imagine history from the perspective of the present. So if one can just imagine that people probably had no issues, or it was maybe even not so easy for the Christian missionaries to enforce Christianity. They tried to woo them rather than to force them to follow the Christian religion. So it was easier saying that, you know what, do the same thing, but this is better, and we'll give you some better stuff also along with it, but you can continue to do your stuff. So what I learned was, when we did the Goa trip earlier this year, we went for a nice culture walk with, what's his name? Subodh Kerkar. And he mentioned something really interesting, that in Goan houses, all Hindu houses have a Tulsi Vrindavan in the front yard. And when the Portuguese and their missionaries were forcing conversion in Goa, and they had the same thing, they had resistance from the local Hindus, something like the morning prayer around the Tulsi Vrindavan. They said, all right, fine, you know what, if you want to carry on that ritual, do it, but remove the tulsi and put a cross there. So apparently this is a very unique feature in Goa, where you have the pedestal of a Tulsi Vrindavan, but there is a cross and it is in the front yard. And I guess the tradition is going to be lost, because now even in Hindu homes, I don't know how many people do that morning prayer. And maybe the Christians follow the same thing or not, but it's just there as an artifact. Like it should be there in the house. It should be on the east side in front of the front door or something like that. So these are some of these cultural artifacts that get left behind, that people put in just out of ritual, but the meaning gets lost. Now, coming back to sugar skulls. Sugar skulls have also their own independent history. So we know about the Day of the Dead, but it's so on the Day of the Dead, the ofrenda was made to a goddess who had a very complicated name. No? I'm going to try and read that name out. This was spelling is something else, and then you pronounce it as something else. And I think Aztec culture or South American culture had very, very strange pronunciations. Yeah, so if you want to write it down, you can write it and try to pronounce it. MICTEC ACI HUATL. MICTEC ACIHUATL. So Mictecacihuatl or whatever. So they've given, if you Google this, you will get a pronunciation also. It's quite complicated. So she is called Lady of the Dead. And stone sculptures that are made of her are basically just a skull and a body of a person, but a skull with the bared teeth. So it's a very weird sculpture. And that was used as inspiration for sugar skulls. And these skulls happen to be placed around, and these are meant to be of the people you're trying to remember. It sounds very morbid to us, but for them, it's a very happy, it's not like Halloween at all. It's a very happy occasion. And it's almost like they believe that the ancestors will come for a party, and then you have a party for 3 days, and then they go back. So there's lots of stuff that they do. The details are very sweet, but it's still surrounded around a skull, which I find very creepy. So the tradition is that you make or you find or not find, you buy a skull on which a sugar skull, not a real skull, which is made traditionally used to be made out of amaranth seeds. So my discovery during this research was that amaranth is a South American plant. It's not like Lal Mat is not Indian. Lal Mat, Hirva Mat is not Indian. And I won't be surprised if tapioca is also not from India. So all the stuff, a lot of the stuff that we've been told is traditional food is actually not even traditional. So amaranth has got very tiny seeds which can be molded or they can be stuck. So it's almost like I showed it to my daughter and she said, "Oh, this looks like Rajgira's ladu." But Rajgira is puffed amaranth. These are not puffed. So now, over time, that changed to making these skulls out of confectionery sugar. So they are white, and on that, you would use some kind of icing and then create all these patterns. And they're pretty tiny. They're not like a large skull, they're pretty tiny. And they would just be placed around the tombs of people. So I think the festival is from 31st of October and 1st and 2nd of November. And 1st of November, they place the skulls of children who might have passed. And then on 2nd November, they place skulls of grown-ups who might have passed. And then I don't know what happens on the 3rd, whether they clear up everything or just leave everything over there. So they decorate the grave with the marigold and they have candles and all sorts of stuff. So you'll see all of this in detail in Coco. That's a beautiful movie. So it's more about the whole being down there with the dead also. So I want to make the design of the sugar skull as it now has become. So it's not just the sculpture or the sugar skull anymore. It has been translated into several other areas also, mostly just the graphic of the sugar skull. It has also, I mean, a lot of people during the festival paint their faces. So like Halloween masks, but a lot more decorative. And there's a very interesting history about how these skulls were also used as political cartoons in Mexico at the turn of the past century. And I'll share a video about that as well. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to draw these skulls and also create a few decorations. But we will make this in the back of our page, not the front. So you have a reference So this will be our final work, but you can draw in the back. So it always remains together instead of making it on the opposite page. So we'll start with the back. Okay, let's give a minute. Tanushree is just joining in. Hi, Tanushree.
Yeah, hi Aditi. I'm just switching on my camera, just 2 minutes.
All right, no problem. I'll wait for you. So while Tanushree is setting up, I just wanted to share with you that from next month, July, August, September, I'm going to have a 3-month workshop, which is an art quarter. So I will be covering 3 mediums. It'll be a 12-session workshop on Tuesday evenings from 5 to 6:30. And we'll be going through very basic stuff in pencil, ink, and watercolor. So if you know of anyone who wants to do a short illustration course, they can sign up for that or connect with me. Just watch out for that and share it with people. So Tanushree, we are making sugar skulls today. This should be easy enough. It's not very complicated. Less complicated than last time, I can assure you. So what we've done is I'm going to make the illustration in the first rough sketches in the back of where we're going to make the final work. So you always have the reference of that, of the artwork. Okay, so first start on the back of the page and then we will turn it around and we'll make the fair illustration on the front. All right, now, I'm going to show you the structure of the sugar skull first, and then a bunch of decorations and how we can compose the whole picture. Okay, so before we start, let me show you what the final is. This is how our final picture is going to look. So I'm going to show you the basic structure of the sugar skull and then some decorative elements, which we will combine and make like a 4-part illustration. With the kids, I've just done a single one. You can choose to make one single sugar skull also, or we will make it like this. And in this, I have used a different medium in every block. So this was watercolor. These are brush pens. These are color pencils. And this is just micron pen. But that is a choice that I leave to you. All right. So to start with, let us begin with an oval shape somewhere in the middle. Don't make it too much in the corner because we might need some room. So start with, let's say, let's do a circle instead of an oval. Circles are easy to understand and make. In the circle, divide it vertically and horizontally. So you get a center line. And on the horizontal line, also make divisions so that you divide that half into half as well. On the vertical, the lower half you can divide into half. Okay, easy enough. Now we're going to make the eyes and nose on these points. So you can make a circle. And even if your circle is a little wobbly, that's fine. Slightly closer than exactly around this. Can you see this? My center has gone a little to the right. My circle is closer to the center of the circle than this line being in the center of the eye circle. Now, from this point, which is the half of the vertical below the center line, you will draw an inverted heart shape. Oh, sorry, this is wrong. An inverted heart shape, not a heart shape. Just turn this upside down. So you have an inverted heart shape. So a spade without its stem. Now this base of the circle might be too far, but somewhere about there you can make a smile-like shape like this from just a little inside the eye, the width of the eyes. And over here, we are going to start making teeth. So start with an M shape in the center and keep building this sideways. So starting in the center will ensure that you have the same number on either side. And below this, inverted shapes. So there'll be U shapes. Okay. So all of this is fitting somewhere around with the circle. It's very easy to do this. You don't have to worry about proportions. And also because finally it's a skull, even if your proportions shift a little bit, it does not really look bad. You don't have to worry about, oh, this is not coming in the center or it's come slightly higher or lower. Even those quirks can make the picture look interesting. Now, a little closer than the edge of the circle, we will make this shape. I want you to look at the shape first before you make it. I'm going to come straight down from the side of the eye. And as I come to the middle of this circle, I will go outward and then come back in. Let me make it one more time. Come straight down, go outward a little bit, and then come back in. These are the cheekbones. Now, the cheekbones will end somewhere close to the end of our jaw or our smile. So a little away from the end of that line is where we will start the next one. It doesn't come straight down. It curves just a little bit inside, comes almost straight right up to the teeth, and then follows the curve of the teeth gracefully. So don't go too far away, because then you'll just be making like a Jay Leno skeleton. We don't want that. And then when you come to the center, again with an overlapping line, you can make a chin, a distinct chin which would also be a chin bone. All right, so far. So now notice how our jawline has gone at least a quarter of that circle's diameter below the circle. Now the same quarter above, or it could go even higher, is where we will make another shape. And I want you to again see this and then make it. I will go around the outside of this line and maybe even at half. So take, this is the whole distance. I would take maybe 2/3. The 2/3 of the distance up. You make a nice skull shape. Around this. Now, there isn't a given proportion. I'm just giving you this proportion based on my illustration. So hopefully your illustration and my illustration would measure more or less the same. But these skulls can change, or these proportions can change. If you were to make a head over here, it's not going to look like a skeleton or a skull. It might just look like a different skull. So again, don't worry too much about proportions here. So while this is slightly detailed version of it, you can also make, whenever, if you feel the need to make multiples of these, there are some very sweet small versions you can make. So you can do the same thing, make 2 circles, an inverted heart-shaped nose, a rectangle with rounded edges, a line through the center horizontally, and several lines vertically. So this will look like a grill. And you can make a circle around the eyes from where the nose are and come down and make a jaw. So this is a much more simplified version. And this can also be used. But if you get this, it's got better proportions to make more designs on this. Okay, are you comfortable with this? All right. So now comes the designing part. We need to have a lot of motives. Typically in the Mexican culture, maybe it's probably the fact that they're also a warm country, that they too have lots of color. My contention has always been that warmer countries have much more color than cooler countries because we have more colorful things that survive. So let's start with some simple floral motifs, seeing as the marigold is a big part of the celebration. Here's how you can make a simplified marigold. So start off in the center with again, I want you to observe how I make it and then make it. Don't draw with me, draw after me. So start off with almost a simple floral shape like that. This is pretty easy to make. And then you start making petals which are like this. They are forked in the middle. And then you just start crowding around with this pattern. Sometimes 3, sometimes 4 scallops. And as you go further, the length of these petals will increase. And this will start looking more like marigold. Be sure to join the gaps. go over these gaps. So once you make a detailed line work flower like this, all you have to do is color it up and nothing more is needed. Then you don't have to do any individual petals or individual coloring. Okay, then we have some very generic floral motifs. So say if we take a large center circle, just make petals which are just similar size. And now if you have a problem turning the flower around, then you should rotate the paper. So this is something that happens very frequently or used to happen to me. I would start off with a flower like that. From the top and all, it's fine. And then instead, I would forget to turn the line on the side. So I would just get all these slanting petals till I came to another side and then I had to do this. So it was a very weird flower. And then I would have these gaps, which was so frustrating. You can imagine a 5-year-old just screaming every time something like that happened. This just didn't make sense. And I would throw my pencil in frustration. The solution to this is pretty simple. Normally, we are able to make petals in the same, in a radial manner, in one direction better than other directions. So the trick is to keep turning your paper and make the same movement. And sometimes it's just one petal at a time. So just make that. So it's almost as if your hand is a petal making machine and you are turning the base and the hand remains in the same place. Same goes for this. So in this case now, you can make, and also you don't have to make it as a continuous line. It helps to lift your hand between different shapes. Then you have petal shapes which can be like this, and also construction where you can start off with making almost a leaf-like petal at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 and 3. An easy orientation, and then in the spaces in between. Now, one of the nicer motifs is roses, of course. I'm going to show you some easy roses to make. So one very easy graphic is start with a circle again and make a shape like this, like two scallop shapes that are overlapping at the bottom. So you get the strange Y shape. And then you make, you can also make a shape like that, just at the top of the Y. And then, except for these places where the line already comes and joins, you can make slightly flattish petals, which can overlap. Okay, easy enough. Now there's another variation of the same bud in the center, the same petals. But you can make another shape like this on the inside of the petals to make it look as if there's a folding petal shape. Now, of course, there are more shapes that we can make. So roses are a very common feature. More complicated rose would be like this. Start off with the shape of like a Marathi one, which is like a knot. And from the inside part, you start off making these shallow shapes like these. It's like a wiggly line. You can twirl this line inward, make one more curve so that it looks finished. Now, this is going to be the central bud, and we're going to make similar petals all around it. So you can have shapes like these. And all of them can have just a small, some kind of small line that looks like an overlap. This would be the middle circle of petals. And then wherever you have these petals joining and you have this V shape, just around that, you can have a shape like this. So all complex shapes are built from simple shapes. And as you keep building them, the whole figure starts becoming more and more complicated. So in this, now if you want to, you can make a few lines which will add detail. So they're not very difficult to make, but they will make the flower look so detailed. Again, over here, you just need to color with one layer of paint and it'll do the job of light and shadow and highlight and everything because of these lines. Now all roses have serrated leaves. So one leaf can be like this. You have serrations can be a little complicated. So if you want, you can just have a simple plain leaf, or you mark very lightly the edge of the leaf and you make a zigzag line. So go outward and inward, outward and inward. And don't do too many. Just 2 or 3 are enough. And because we have these lines, we can also make veins in the leaf for detailing. Another common structure for leaves is make a curved line, and you have 3 leaves in almost a trident shape. Now, I don't like to join 3 leaves to a point, so I will leave a little gap, make the outline of the leaf shape so that I get those serrations nice and balanced. And then I will make a zigzag line, 1, 2, enough. A rose obviously has many more serrations, but we don't really need all that. This is supposed to be a graphic and simplified at that. Now the other flowers that we can make, simple shapes also, will be things like these. Just a cleft petal. And in most of these flowers, the less perfect they are, the more hand-drawn and charming they will look. Very perfect flowers tend to look very mechanical. All of these can have leaf shapes. So the next thing to design are leaves and vines. Oh wait, I'll just do more flowers. So you have this also. By the way, these are lovely exercises for doodle art, just making different kinds of floral shapes. Tanushri, while you're drawing, hold the book because your line becomes less shaky, you're more confident. So chances are that they hit the line will hit the mark. And this is an instruction I have to give almost all students for at least the first 3 months. So don't feel that you're the only one. Believe me, everybody has done it, including I. All right, now let's come back to the leaves. So simple leaves are just like these. You can make long leaves. You can make fat leaves. And you can make serrated leaves. We don't want to make the design too complicated because the area is so small. However large you make it, a simple design repeated often will make for a very complicated decoration. Each part of the design does not have to be very complicated. Now, if you want to make marigold leaves, they are quite pretty. They're just very long and they stick out like these. Their structure is like a V shape. I wish I was good at botany and I could tell you what this leaf growth is. It is called some particular name. When the leaves stick out from the same point on both sides of the main stem. I'm not particularly fond of this structure, but in the context of a marigold, it looks really nice. Other leaf structures always make a curved line. Don't make a straight line. It looks very, again, when I say don't, it's a mere suggestion. No? Sometimes even straight lines look very nice. So if your design is going to be fairly geometric, then a straight line might work better. But what I will do is curve the line and curve all the stems. Give your leaves a little bit of a neck. And then I'm going to try and make the same sized leaf on all of these stems. If they don't have a neck, and many people forget this is how it looks. Not bad if you can maintain it. Very often the shape goes awry and it starts looking a little funny. Basically, keep your line strong and your shapes consistent. Another leaf would be, now over here I've seen a lot of Indian type leaves. So you have this leaf that I try to avoid as much as possible in contemporary design, because this instantly starts looking very ethnic. I still can't draw it. But the leaf structure, which is like that, pinched. Very Indian leaf. Now these, along with these, we want a little bit of filigree design to fill up. So simple things like teardrop shapes can be converted into motifs. So you have motifs like these, a curved teardrop shape in receding sizes. And then you can mirror this design. It usually helps to start from the center, but like I said, don't worry about making it too precise. Then you can have something like this, which should be more like metal or jewelry kind of work. So think of a compound curve like this, which will have a little thickness in the middle and tapering ends. So this is a very versatile shape because you can keep that along with this crescent shape, and you can build a very interesting design along with these. So these can be used sometimes in places where nothing else will fit. Like for example, you can't make a flower over here. So if you make a shape like this, it adds to the gauntness of the features. Then we can make shapes like this also, just a curve like that. All fall in the same category of, I guess, filigree design. And you could also make it even more complex by adding a curve to it. But remember, when you want to make a design like this, it can't be a parallel curve. So make it fat towards when it goes towards the opposite end of the curve, and then when it turns around, make it fat again, and then make it thin. So this thin, fat, thin aesthetic usually pleases the eye. Otherwise, it will just look like one big fat twirl, which again, honestly speaking, it looks fine. So I suppose in this context, a lot of things work because it's just supposed to be so bhara hua. Now, of course, the other plain motifs are always available. Like you can use hearts. You can use concentric hearts. So you can have this shape and then ever-growing hearts. I haven't come across too many stars on this though, but I suppose that shouldn't stop us from making stars. And they're conspicuously missing. Okay, so I think these are enough designs. We can start using these, and if you can think of any more, please feel free to use any of your designs also. But like I said, what we are going to make is something like this. So look at the size. if you're not comfortable with painting in a very small size, I suggest just make one large sugar skull where you can give a lot of space to each design and make that design very complex looking. Let me look for another reference for you. Yeah, something like this. So I will share all these pictures with you right away.
Oh, the heart with the lock.
The heart with a lock, yeah. This. So this was asked for by one of the students. This was in the kids class. We've done this. And there should be one more. See, this is the rose pattern, but without the multiple, the leaves. See, this is what we've done. So like I said, you don't really need to do too much after you've done the pencil work. You just color it up and the line art itself will make the image look impressive. So very often there would be a black backdrop because it's supposed to be a nighttime festival. It's celebrated usually at midnight. So to evoke that, they would have a black backdrop, but even something like this is perfectly fine. So if you're not comfortable painting in the negative spaces, don't bother. The purpose of this exercise is really simple. We're using a nice, easy topic to practice drawing and composing with simple elements so that we can evaluate our color preferences, steady our hand when painting. It's almost like we are creating our own paint by numbers illustration. Okay, so take it with just that in mind. Okay. So do you want to make 1 or 4? How many do you want to make?
I think I'll start with 1.
1? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. How about Elena and Janita?
I think I'll do one big one because I
One
want to do it
is
with a
fine
black
for now. I
background.
think that will be.
1 is fine? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's all do 1 then. So I'll turn my book up.
I
Right.
wanted to do mine with a black background, so I think a big one will be better. I'll
All
mess up the small one with black.
No problem. So even if we're making a big one, we're not going to make it bigger than our palm. So even if the page is larger, our final image is just going to be about so much. But don't make the border first. Never make the border first. Never write the title and date first. We will start from the center outwards. So we will construct it exactly like how we had constructed the rough image. Start with a circle. Now, if this is going to be the size of our frame, the circle needs to be about this much and slightly higher on, slightly, yeah, we can keep it in the middle. It grows on the 2 sides. Okay, so this is about where we are. So I always recommend use your hands to visualize where you want to start with your elements. And then once you've decided that, then you don't have to doubt yourself. So start with a very light circle. Divide it vertically and horizontally. So we're going back to the same instructions. Divide the horizontal line in half on both hemispheres. And the vertical line in half in the lower hemisphere. Now we'll make 2 circles near the half line, but a little closer to the center than to the side. An inverted heart shape. Now, I think my nose line has come a little too low, so I'm going to change my design a little bit and make my nose slightly higher than what I have marked. Now, these are adjustments you are allowed to make because after all, this is your illustration. I'm going to make the teeth also slightly higher and a shallower line. Now let's make these U-shaped teeth or inverted U-shaped teeth. Now, don't worry about the shape of the teeth. Huh? They can be crooked teeth, funny looking teeth, all of that is fine. We don't want perfect American teeth. Now, from the sides of the eyes, we will make the cheekbones coming and ending just near or above the grin. Now, whenever you feel you've made a mistake and you want to erase, please make the corrected line first and then erase the line that you think is wrong. Because once you erase the wrong line, you lose your reference points. Okay, here comes the jaw. And go almost parallel to the smile in a curve. And draw a chin. Oh, my chin is very tiny this time. That's okay. And now mark a spot high up on which we will make our forehead. Now, if you are unsure, make the line in pencil, very lightly in pencil first, and then make it dark. Okay, shall we do the same decoration, all of us? At some point, if you want to do your own decoration, please feel free. I'm erasing the pencil guidelines now. And if you want to, you can make this, all the artwork, even in pen directly. I think I can say quite confidently, what you do in pen often is much better than what you do in pencil. Sounds weird, sounds impossible, but that is how it works. Okay, I'm going to bring my eyes slightly closer and I'm going to redraw all of this with pen. So these are my eyes. The nose. Around the eyes now, we can make petals. This is a very common motif. If you made long petals along the side and towards the center, if you can't fit them, make smaller petals. The petals on both eyes do not have to match in number, but though if they match in size, it will really look nice, especially the parts where the two circles come closer to each other near the nose. Now inside this, we can draw another concentric circle. And we can draw hearts. Okay, now for the forehead, we can start off with maybe a small teardrop shape and have almost an eyebrow-like shape going sideways. This really works well because we already have some idea of or some expectation of there being a brow. And then you can draw some curved teardrop shapes bending outward. Now, right in the center, we can make one of these flowers which have got that cleft. That's a very pretty looking flower. So make a circle in the center, a concentric circle inside that, and you can make petals like these. Tanushri, am I at good speed for you? If I'm too fast, please tell me. I'll wait for you. Huh?
It's okay. I'm managing. So I've just done, I'm basically drawing from the pencil right now
All right.
so that I just see what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now on the sides, we could draw maybe one of these flowers. So make another couple of circles. Now, whenever you're drawing two of the same on two opposite sides, always draw them in the same sequence, like first the center on both sides so that you can gauge distances, and then the shapes. So make the first row of petals on this side, and then on the other side, maybe go in the opposite direction. We can also build this by making a different petal shape emerging. So the opposite of what we'd done. As a kid, I remember making all these floral motifs in the back of all my notebooks in school. I loved it. How many different ways can we make flowers? Now we can make some leaves. So I've not chosen the rose simply because a rose can become very complicated, and then those rose leaves can become complicated. And in composing this design, try to keep it like a mirror opposite, because that always looks more pleasant. If the designs are too complicated, then don't worry about it. It's not compulsory that the design has to be symmetrical. Okay, here I'm going to attempt making the serrated leaf. And now if you notice, I am filling out the design in the cavities, in the negative spaces between the flowers. That's how you fill up design. So you still have a nice shape of negative space sticking out. Now over here, I can make a leaf come this way. So you have very interesting negative space flowing. Now, negative space is the space that is left over after you've made the design. All the stuff we've made in positive, and the space that's enclosed by certain positives is the object. And that's called form. And the space that is left around those recognizable forms is negative space. And that is the space which supports your design. And it's very important. So you need to keep, if you can keep equal amounts of negative spaces on all sides, that makes your design look a lot more pleasurable, more balanced.
I have less space on top, so if I put 3 leaves, does the balance go?
No, you can put 3 leaves also. But depends on how much space do you leave on the sides. If it's going to be very crowded, then maybe you should not put those leaves. As much as you want to fill the design, you should also allow for some breathing space. Now, this is a concept, I think it's alien in traditional Indian arts to leave any kind of breathing space. They just love to smother you with design and pattern. And that is part of the charm of traditional Indian art. Everywhere, chappa chappa, you feel it is filled up. But I feel that we can balance that out. Not every part of that illustration needs to have either color or texture or both, and that too changing colors frequently. So if you have, so in this case, if you have very little space like what I have over here, there's no point in putting a leaf there, leave it blank. If close to one flower you have space and close to the other flower you don't have too much space, then only put it on one side. You can sacrifice symmetry for aesthetic. You don't need to keep that symmetrically balanced. Now the chin also has a very good, lot of potential, I would say. Put a line there. And I really like this pattern, so I'm going to make this. But now if you're comfortable with the designs, you can choose whatever patterns you want. I'm going to make leaves over here. But again, don't bump into those teeth. And here we can make that compound curve. When making these shapes and mirrors of these shapes, I know I used to get so confused, I'd end up making the same shape. So I would talk to the shape, coming down and going out to the left, down and out to the left, and then down again. And its corollary will be down and out to the right, down and out and down to the right. You need to sometimes talk the design just for yourselves. Now we can do a few curves here and maybe and you can also have some circles and dots. Again, just to fill up. In this case now,
There was one picture that you had with a mustachy kind of a very nice mustache cut.
a
That
red mustache.
I think an orangey mustache, yes. If we could have some pictures there. See,
Mhm.
it's such a cute mustache.
Now, one more thing that I like to do, which is each of these forms has a certain vazan, but you can also make thin designs with hairlines. So you can do something like this where you can have some twirls, and often they would be asymmetric, but don't make them too complicated. Like over here, I might just be able to do one. No, this would also end in a leaf, then a twirl here. The max that your line should bend is twice. So you're once in one direction and once in another direction. Now I think the skull is done. Now we can decorate around it. So in this case now, please do use a pencil and draw a line. Don't use a scale. So even if the line is a little wobbly, that's fine. Make a loose pencil sketch of the border and give yourself enough room to make some motifs. So look at the space like this, measure it from the corners. So you know you have about the same space on both sides. This will be fine. And mark your areas. In these circles, I'm going to make some more flowers. And just so that I have everything equidistant and balanced, I'm going to start with making the design first and then finally make the border around it. Now the mustache shape that you were talking about, Elaine, can be made like this. You have one curve, crescent curve like this, and one crescent in the opposite direction. You made it? Lovely. Wonderful. That's okay. So beautiful.
Where would you put that lock if you had to draw it?
The
Where is it
lock,
usually used? Yeah.
it can be put somewhere over here. It can be put like a tattoo
Oh.
on one side also.
Oh.
And the lock is a really pretty motif.
Yes, very
Yes.
beautiful.
I
If you could
just-
post it, I'd love to draw it just for the design. So somewhere or the other we could use it. Whenever you have the time, post
No,
the
we can-
pictures.
No, we can do it now. So make the heart shape. It's not too difficult.
Okay.
And a lock is only a circle and a rectangle with the round shape. But what makes the lock pretty is the filigree design on it. So make
Yeah.
inside and make some kind of design on it. So I'm making some twirls. We can make so let me show you how I'm finishing this. I'm making a slightly smaller circle and rectangle here. So I have more room on the outside. And I'm going to use a 0.2 because I want the design to be very fine. So I'm going to make a double line in this. Oh, my 2 is not working. make a ball terminal.
Beautiful design. Very nicely done.
The easiest way to make a complicated design is to make a double line on it. And then these little curves on the sides. And making these center lines. That's it. Now we will finish this with a slightly rounded line. So don't make any points. Even over here, don't make any sharp edges. And we want to make it look like a three-dimensional lock. So just above the bumps of the heart, make the locking mechanism. And then give it a 3D shape, but a little off. Now this is optional. Huh? So it looks more three-dimensional. And in order to again make it look more three-dimensional, you can fill in a texture like that. From any one side. And this now you can place around maybe a rose or something. That also looks nice. Okay, moving on back to our sugar skull. Now here we have enough room to make the rose motif. So let's do that. And we can do it simultaneously. So make the figure of 9 on one side and an inverted 9 on the other, right in the center. Then a simplified shape. I'm not making too many curves here. Overlap with a second one which has more curves. Perhaps just 2 bumps. Now I'm changing the motif a little bit. Just complete the line over here, this one. This one that is sticking out, complete the line like this. And then make an overlapping shape like this. Make a petal shape like this. You can make 5 overlapping petals if you can. We are going to make one more round outside of this. If you have filled up your circle, then just wait for me to show you the last round around it. But this is also a nice rose. And now to make this look more complex, in each of these petal shapes, you can make a line like this. Either you can complete it or you can leave it incomplete. So like that. And then we will make slightly flatter petals, again overlapping. And here now, in order to get our shape, if you need to make 5 or 6 or sometimes even 4, anything is fine. Now leaves, bring the leaves out towards the center, and because we have enough room, maybe we can make 2 leaves. So bring the line from slightly lower towards the center. If you want, make a leaf outline. If you feel brave enough, and it's really just drawing a leaf, so really nothing to it. You should be able to do it. Now, when we make the second leaf, turn it inward towards the corner of its chin, because that is where the negative space is sticking out. Whenever you come across classic paintings, classic art, you'll often hear negative space being spoken about, like the space behind Mona Lisa's head, or the space in between certain characters in the Night Watch or the Last Supper. Because a lot of the balances in classical arts were created through negative space or use of negative space. All right, now the flowers on top over here. I give you the freedom to choose whichever flower you like. And if there are flowers that you make, which you want to use, please use those also. Just don't make them too detailed. So I'm going to make a different flower. I'm going to start off with a simple daisy petal structure. And then between these petals, I'm going to make my cleft petals. In my home, I was known to make, as far as art is concerned, how to make my life more difficult. I could write a book on that. I've always been the person who will not take the simplest task when it comes to art, unnecessarily add details or a complexity. So my mom's first reaction whenever she would see my art, ever since I remember, had always been to do a face palm and then appreciate it, because she just couldn't understand why I felt compelled to make it so complicated. Now this can also look like a marigold, huh? A simplified graphic version of marigold. Now, each of these can also be converted into buds. So when you want to create a bud, it's very simple. Take whichever flower motif you see and recreate only a quarter of it. Now, when you're distributing flowers also, in places where you have large flowers next to them, ideally have smaller flowers or don't have too many flowers. So here I'm making a very simple shape. Just a small 6-petal flower. Now, in order to create more fun over here, we can use little negative circles like these. Even some negative splotches which you will keep white. And those can be inserted even at the last minute if you feel like. But you can do something like this. Start off with a large circle right under the chin, and then in receding sizes, move to either side of the chin. So there is some flow in this line. Now that our picture is complete and we only have to add these little additional elements, we can finish off the square. Remember, when you're making these lines, please hold your book upright. If you start making lines holding the book sideways, like we normally do when we write, chances are your lines are going to be crooked. So hold it straight, look at the line from a distance so that you can gauge its direction. If you feel more comfortable, Erase all the previous lines and make a new pencil line. And avoid fishtailing. So avoid making lines that go across. All existing lines will make your current line look different. It may not look straight, even if it is straight. And worst case scenario is if you do make lines which are crooked, you can always straighten it by expanding your black paint. So now that we have this, we can do more design. I could make a simple vine-like leaf coming outward to the corners, so I use the corner up. Then I could just make a trail of receding circles, almost as if they are water droplets spilling out from the sides and coming downward. I can have some circles here in this negative space, in the crook of this crescent. I can have a nice negative circle here, from where I could have 2 teardrops flowing outward. And then from these flowers, I could have receding circles go up. Anything more you feel like adding, you can add on the fly. Okay, so I'm going to share images of these so that you get some ideas of color combinations. There is no rule about colors. You can fill in as many colors or as few colors as you want. But seeing as this is a celebration of life after death, maybe the more colorful you make it, the better it would be. Okay, how's it looking? Wow, very nice.
Yeah, so I've only done pencil right now.
Oh, very nice. You
Yeah.
don't need to make it in pen also. It's perfectly fine. You can color even around pencil. That's perfectly fine.
All right.
The 4 that I've shown you, the 4 skulls, other than the last one, everything was colored only around pencil lines. So that also looks perfectly fine. All right. So I guess that's it for today. And I'll share these pictures, and then through the week, take your time painting. And if you feel you want to make that multiple skeleton skull composition, that's also you're welcome to do that.
Could you send us the pictures of both?
I'll send you pictures of all of them, the one that I made right now,
That'd be nice.
and also the colors of the others with the other motives also. There are different motives in
Lovely.
this. So you can
Oh, look at
check
those
those out.
flowers. They're beautiful. The shaded, I mean, the yellow and orange.
Yeah.
Gorgeous flowers. Very nice.
So I'll share these with you so you get some
And I
idea.
love the top of his skull. He's got those little things sprouting.
Okay, cool. So I'll see you next week then. Bye everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Aditi, I just wanted to know, you have classes for kids also. So my daughter was interested. She's 10 years old. So if you
Yeah,
could share the details for that also.
I'll do that. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Bye.